21 meeting of the Nikola County Board of Commissioners. Be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Drown.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, folks, we have an agenda in front of us. Ms. Lancome, do we have any changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, there is one change to the agenda, and it's the removal of item number 5 on the consent agenda. It's going down under Property and Public Services, so there'll just be one reference to the consideration of the voting equipment grant.
Okay. So, Commissioners will remove item 5 from the consent agenda and put it down under Property Services. Assuming no other changes to the agenda, I invite a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll move to approve as agended.
We've got a motion.
Second.
Commissioner Lipke moves, Commissioner Drannell seconds. Motion to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion passes unanimously. We'll now turn to the consent agenda. Again, item 5 is removed. The farm lease renewals is not on the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move it, Mr. Chair.
I'll second.
Commissioner Kolars moves, Commissioner Lipke seconds approval of the consent agenda with the omission of item 5. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion is approved unanimously. Public appearances. Is anyone here this morning to speak to the board? It doesn't look like it. So we'll turn to Public Works and Mr. Greenwood.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and staff. Item under Public Works today is a presentation for the Highway 169 corridor study. We have Rhonda Alice from MnDOT and Charles Androsky here to come and present findings of the corridor study today. So I invite them to come forward and do their presentation.
Wonderful, thank you. Welcome, and just a brief introduction of each for the record, that'd be fantastic. And you can remove your mask when speaking, that's perfectly fine.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Charles Androsky. I'm a transportation planner with the North Mankato Area Planning Organization.
Thank you.
And good morning, everyone. My name is Rhonda Alice, and I am the Planning Director for MnDOT District 7.
Great, thank you.
Okay, well, I guess I'll just jump right in. Again, my name is Charles Androsky. I'm here with MAPO. We are the region's federally recognized Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO. Essentially, if folks are unfamiliar, we are an intergovernmental partnership that focuses on transportation planning. We're fortunate to have Commissioner Kolars on our policy board as a representative for Nicollet County. And we, as part of our work, we perform a broad range of different studies and different planning projects. One of these is the 169 corridor study. And the purpose of this study was to engage local agencies and stakeholders to develop a context-sensitive shared vision for how we here locally and regionally want to see the corridor develop in the future as our region continues to grow and continues to develop. The study has concluded, and we're at that final phase now where we're approaching various boards and councils for our different agencies and partner jurisdictions to report out, to let you folks know about the work that has been conducted, as well as request consideration of resolutions in support of our study's conclusions. The study was developed by a project management team, or a PMT, that did include Nicollet County staff, and the PMT believes that by passing these resolutions of support, that will increase the likelihood of the study's recommendations being implemented further down the line. As far as a brief agenda, we'll just talk through a high-level overview, preliminary recommended vision and implementation plan, which is an important piece that outlines the sequencing of our recommendations. We'll go through our next steps, and we'll talk about resolutions of support at the end. And if we could just skip back maybe one slide, I want to refer to the overall aerial map. So this is our total study area, and for simplicity, we did divide the corridor study area into 3 separate sub-areas, and we'll get into those in a little bit. But there's a northern, middle, and southern sub-area. But as a whole, the study extends from Lake Street on the north. So I usually tell folks Happy Chef, maybe a little bit north of Happy Chef, is where our northern termini for this study is, all the way down to where Highway 60 and 169 split and go their separate ways on the south. So we know that in recent years, many improvements to 169 have occurred. There's been turn lanes, acceleration lanes, there's been pedestrian crossing enhancements, trail connections, different frontage roads improvements. But there are still some lasting concerns for this roadway. There are areas and there are sections of roadway that are above the critical crash index. There are some safety concerns. There's some maintenance and sections of the area that are nearing the end of its useful life. So MnDOT actually has tens of millions of dollars planned and programmed for this section of roadway in the coming years. The purpose of this study was to gather a consensus vision for how we want this, locally here, we want this study to develop and how we'd like to see those dollars invested to benefit our community. This was over a 2-year process, and the study was guided by our PMT. So the PMT folks, briefly, we had representatives from Mankato and North Mankato, Nicollet County, Blue Earth County, as well as MnDOT District 7, and MAPO, myself as well. And we did have, we're fortunate to have Seth Greenwood, Public Works Director, representing Nicollet County on the PMT. And we did set out some project goals, and we shared those project goals with the public at various outreach. We had focus groups with targeted stakeholders. We had general public open houses. We also had various pop-up events where we went out to various community events and tried to interact with folks as they were circulating through the event. So some of these safety goals were based on a purpose and need. Goals like vehicle mobility is very important for this corridor. Vehicle safety was a very high priority, and as well as the different modal relationships, balancing different modes of transportation from not just single occupancy motorists, but also transit and bicyclists and pedestrians and folks who use a wheelchair or a power chair, as well as regional freight movements as well. We also wanted to take account of infrastructure conditions and some among our additional considerations as well. And the goals here shown on the screen, they were used to compare and evaluate different alternatives. So they allowed us to kind of screen and hold up different alternatives and rank how they scored and help guide the process to make sure that we had a process that was in line with our purpose and need. It was in line with what the community wanted to see happen here in the next few decades. If you go to the next slide, please. As I mentioned, the study has concluded, so we're in this black box here. We are at that report out phase for the council and board presentations. The timing on the future improvements, so when we actually see shovels in the ground and we see bulldozers and various equipment out, that's to be determined at this point. It's based on several factors. There's funding availability considerations, but it will inform, this study and recommendations will inform a range of upcoming projects over the next 10 to 15 years. Primarily, MnDOT will be the lead agency. It is a MnDOT jurisdiction roadway. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we did segment this full corridor into 3 separate corridors. It kind of helped us capture the context because there's a lot going on in this roadway. So we did segment it out into a northern, middle, and southern sub-area. The northern sub-area begins at Lake Street, and then it goes to the Vets Memorial Bridge, Belgrade. The middle sub-area begins at the Vets Memorial Bridge and goes down to the Blue Earth River crossing. And the southern sub-area goes from the Blue Earth River crossing down to where 169 and 60 go their separate ways. Next slide, please. So we'll start with our northern sub-area, and I will carry us through each sub-area, and we'll talk about some of our findings and recommended preliminary recommendations. So to start with the northern sub-area, we did look at multiple intersection configurations and locations within this sub-area. Now, these graphics provide a high-level overview of each, and then we'll zoom into each intersection a little bit closer, but I wanted to start broad at kind of a higher altitude. You can see on the far left, that's our existing conditions. And then in the center, that's our options 1A through 1C, and we'll get into more specific in a couple of slides. And then option 1D is the freeway option, which through discussions with the public, discussions with our stakeholders on the freeway option was set aside and was not pursued further than to great detail. Options 1A and 1C, you'll notice, they close Lind and relocate that full access intersection to North River Lane. And that the treatment and how that intersection might look is is recommended depending on option 1A, 1B, 1C. It's recommended with either signals or R-cuts or what's known as a restricted crossing U-turn or roundabouts control as well. And option D was that dismissed option. We did look at combining Lind and North River Lane and Webster Avenue into one intersection. But that was dismissed. It just didn't service the full area. It had too many impacts on our local businesses, on local stakeholders and properties, just due to the road configurations that would be needed if we were to consolidate all these intersections into one single intersection. Not shown on this slide, we did look at some other improvements as well, such as a ramp signal, as well as a relatively new design. A diverging diamond design was examined as well. All of these options do include the closure of Lind Street, and that's due to crash issues and due to the proximity of Lind Street to the 14 interchange. And MnDOT expressed in 1996, actually when Lind Street was originally signalized, that access to the study area from Lind Street will likely be fully or partially closed, and that's just due to the proximity of the full access interchange, proximity to the highway interchange, and that bears out with our safety analysis as well. Next slide, please. So our stakeholder engagement did identify a lack of support for a full freeway option, and that's of the full cloverleaf. As you can see, there's a variety of reasons why this was felt to not be an ideal solution. It involves closing all the intersections for about a mile in each direction. So you can see north and south, all of those red boxes, all of those would be closed. You see Webster up on the upper right corner of your screen. That's the blue. That would be converted to an above grade interchange. This is not consistent with local agency resolutions that were passed in order to participate in the study, in order to validate the study. It's not consistent. It would have some negative community impacts. So that was not among the final recommendations of a full cloverleaf. Next slide, please. So to take us briefly through our feedback highlights, and again, just due to time, I can't really go through our full public engagement process, but it was a comprehensive public engagement process. Took place over 2 years that included focus groups and surveys and direct outreach. We had an online component, partnered with the Free Press, partnered with public information folks from our various agencies. These are some high-level themes, but there's a lot more to it, and a lot of that is available for review in the full study document. Again, for purposes of time, these are the high-level stuff that bubbled to the top. We did find mixed support for the full cloverleaf interchange, the diverging diamond interchange. There's some regional, I think, unfamiliarity with the diverging diamond. We did find mixed support for roundabouts at North River Lane and Webster Avenue, mixed support for interchanges at Highway 14 and Webster Avenue. There was, I think, a pretty clear identification of a lack of support for the R-cuts, for that restricted U-turn control within the northern sub-area.
Nasty things.
That's consistent with our public engagement. We did find support for leaving Range Street open. That was among our considerations. Was could Range Street better serve from a safety aspect, from a traffic circulation aspect? Could it be potentially relocated or adjusted? They supported leaving it open. That was identified. So that was carried through to our final recommendations. And we found strong support for pedestrian and bicyclist improvements in this segment. And most people preferred the crossing north of Lind Street is where we identified an area for pedestrian crossing. Next slide, please. So this was a comprehensive process that led to our preliminary study recommendations. And our recommendation and our alternatives evaluation process helped to identify this locally preferred alternative of number one, on the far left, signalizing the ramp exiting Highway 14 to help operations for travelers taking a left across the highway. So you can't really see it, but there's that little dot on the very far left of the screen. That's the signalized ramp. That would have some positive safety impacts. And we're also proposing, as you can see here, we're proposing roundabouts servicing North River Lane and Webster Avenue. So you can see Lind has been relocated to North River Lane, which has been converted to a roundabout in this scenario. And then Webster has been converted to a full at-grade roundabout. There is a slight preference with the PMT for those roundabout intersection controls, but I think a signalized control at one or both intersections would be acceptable to the PMT, and that decision will be made later on, further down the line, as the agencies get into design work. That final determination will be made. But the PMT did specify that the full conversion of North River Lane should occur before or concurrent to the closure of Lind. So we don't want to necessarily close off Lind before North River Lane, those improvements are made. They should be done concurrent or before that time.
Mr. Chair, Charles,
Commissioner Kohlers.
let me just ask you the question. If that is adopted, if MnDOT goes in that direction, if that Lind signalization is working, right, will that slow traffic down enough so that they don't come barreling into the Webster roundabout at 50 or 60?
I mean, I think so. I'll turn to Rhonda for that question, but I believe so.
Just to clarify, Jack, you're asking if North River Lane becomes a roundabout, will that slow down traffic as it enters the Webster roundabout?
Right,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, so typically roundabouts are constructed to take traffic through at about 10 to 15 miles an hour, comfortable speed. Obviously, there will always be those people who go through faster than that. But given the distance between the North River Lane and then the Webster Avenue roundabout, traffic would not get up to any kind of speed where they'd be going through quickly through the Webster. And again, it would be designed to take them down to that 10 to 15 miles an hour as well.
And give me the distance again between North River Lane and the future Webster round. Is it 3/4 of a mile, do you think?
Less than half.
Maybe
I was
less
going to
than
say,
that.
yeah, I wouldn't even guess it to be, I would think closer to half a mile.
Right, okay, well then that helps satisfy, thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Commissioner Lipke.
What percentage of the traffic is trucks, especially loaded trucks, do you know?
So we do have that information available. It was something that we looked at through the study. I don't know offhand, but I know it was enough of an interest or area of concern specifically to
Significant.
North Mankato that we did separate outreach. So when Charles talks about all of the public engagement that we did, we took on a special outreach with the trucking community specifically because of that concern.
Sure.
Honestly, what we're hearing from a MnDOT perspective, even with, I have a corridor study going on Highway 60 down in Windham, and for the most part, the trucking community likes roundabouts. They are far more efficient for them to get through. They don't have a lot of the stopping and starting that typically happens when they have to come up to a traffic light controlled intersection. I think the bigger concern for North Mankato, and the reason they wanted to look at that specific outreach with the trucking community had to do more with the diverging diamond that we would be potentially considering at the 14169 interchange and how that would potentially interact with truck movements. There's a fairly high number of truck movement through here, and not just local trucks, but this obviously serves a much larger, we're bringing in traffic from the south, the farming community that's bringing in grain up to the ports of Savage, they all come through this area. And so we definitely looked at impacts to heavy commercial vehicles as well. And honestly, when we did our outreach with the trucking community, we really didn't hear much back. So I don't, you'd like to think that when you don't hear anything, it's because they don't have any concerns.
We've got a lot of grain going the other way, too.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have grain going down to the ethanol facilities down in southern Minnesota or northern Iowa. And so,
Plants, everything in Fairmont and Lake Crystal.
yep, yeah.
So the trucking community initially didn't think too much of roundabouts, but they've kind of learned to adjust to them.
Yeah, if constructed appropriately,
Okay.
they are a very good means to efficiently move those larger vehicles through intersections.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, I just would add that we did verify that at this planning level, these roundabout treatments do support truck movement, so they can make it through these at this level of design. Okay, if we could just skip to the next slide, we have a brief aerial video. This is conceptual, so it doesn't represent the actual, there's not a guarantee this is representative, but here we have us flying south. So we started at 14 and now we're flying south. So here we have McDonald's on our left.
Okay.
Notice that Lind has been relocated.
There's the potential pedestrian crossing there.
Yep. Here comes North River Lane. And Webster. I think part of the consideration for the roundabouts was that it allowed for more opportunity for landscaping and placemaking and aesthetic improvements. That was also a strong theme we got from our public engagement, was that there's an opportunity to make this into a gateway corridor as folks enter the area. So I think that played a role as well.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Lipke.
That pedestrian overpass, would they have elevators so it'd be, ADA compliant? They would.
It would have to be ADA compliant,
Okay.
so however that would be accomplished, that is a requirement for us to
Okay.
make sure that they are. And you'll see as Charles talks, there's also, on the southern segment, we're looking at another potential pedestrian crossing down near Holly, and again, that would have to be ADA
Okay.
compliant
Thank
as
you.
well.
Okay, if we could keep on moving to the middle sub-area. Next slide, please. So we're going from our northern sub-area down to our middle sub-area. A little bit different, still very important, and obviously part of the overall roadway. But there's some different factors to consider in this middle sub-area. Again, it goes from the Vets Memorial Bridge to the Blue Earth River crossing. It's currently a freeway with limited and controlled access at existing interchanges, and it's planned for this segment to remain a freeway. And as Rhonda had alluded to, this part of that designation as a freeway is due to the importance as a freight corridor. I think it's the fifth most heavily trafficked freight corridor in the state of Minnesota. And at the same time, this area also provides a vital access to the downtowns in the area. So we're balancing different contexts, different priorities throughout the whole of this study, and that's certainly evident in this segment as well. MnDOT will be initiating additional study on this area, focused specifically on this issue. So at this planning document stage, we did not go into great depth. But we did develop some improvements, options that would address those occasional backups that we're seeing at the Riverfront Drive interchanges, and we'll get into that in just a second. And then some areas that have existing pedestrian safety concerns. And we'll dive into that right now if we could skip to the next slide. So here we're looking at the Vets Memorial Bridge at the North Mankato approach. So again, MnDOT is planning a project looking at this bridge more closely in the next few years. So we didn't carry these concepts to great detail. But based on our issues analysis of the area and the public feedback we received, we identified some low-cost investments that could improve pedestrian access and visibility to motorists when crossing the bridge. So what we've done here is we've tightened up some turning radii. So we're just bringing in the infrastructure a little bit, the pedestrian facilities and sidewalks. We're bringing that in a little bit so there's less of an on-street distance that pedestrians are forced to walk across without impacting the actual lane configurations. We also have some pedestrian treatments on the left, on the which would be the western side as well. These are just some high-level, low-cost improvements, around $500,000 that MnDOT can review further when they are looking at this bridge in greater depth in the coming years. Next slide, please. So we're going a little bit further west over to the approach where it lands into North Mankato. This concept is a roundabout at Belgrade Avenue in North Mankato. And that was considered several years ago in our Belgrade Avenue study, and it will be reviewed again in the upcoming MnDOT planning process. We find that the Roundabout Intersection is an option for consideration for a couple of different reasons. If you pair this roundabout with a 3-lane design on Belgrade to the west and into downtown North Mankato, that it pairs nicely, or it pairs logically with a 3-lane road configuration. And it's another, it would help slow drivers as they come into downtown. Part of our public engagement, it led to folks reporting that there's high speeds through now downtown North Mankato, especially when folks exit the bridge. So a roundabout would actually force folks to slow down a little bit, that 15-mile-an-hour mark, to kind of help signal the motorist that you're entering a different environment now. This is not the bridge. And roundabouts help provide more opportunity for pedestrian crossings as well. This option does come with a higher price tag of $2 million, but it's another option for the MnDOT folks to carry forward as they go about their planning process. Okay, we're still in the the middle sub area in our preliminary study recommendations. This is over on the Mankato side. We have several recommendations we're recommending move forward for future consideration. And we heard there are a lot of people that walk through this ramp intersection. And for orientation here, I often think in terms of restaurants and fast food. So there's Burger King here, and yep, it's being circled. Thank you. Here, so that's our ramp coming off of 169. There's Riverfront Drive, and then the YMCA and the high school are just to the south there. We've heard there's a lot of people that walk through this ramp intersection. I'll just get it really quick. This is our area right here. There's a problem area with folks walking across there. And we find there's a lot of conflict in between the pedestrians and vehicles the vehicles make a sweeping right to get onto the ramp and to get onto 169. Right now, thank you. We find that there is a sweeping right. This movement right here. So these are through lanes, and folks are driving, and there's traffic coming up behind them. So they kind of hook in almost, for lack of a better term. They hook in over, and that creates problems for pedestrians coming across this way. So what we're proposing is addition of a right turn lane here, which would allow folks to kind of peel off, and the drivers, motorists that want to get on 169, they can peel off with an additional turn lane, which allows them to separate and creates a better pedestrian environment. Now the issues with this one is there's some right-of-way acquisition required. This also requires relocation of access for this business here, which I believe is an insurance or a finance institution, and Burger King as well. Right now they have direct access to Riverfront Drive here and here. This would entail closing that and relocating access here onto this street here. So I think that's the long and short of that option. Again, something for MnDOT and the city to take forward and carry forward as they do further planning and actually implement this at a later time. Okay, so now we're moving over to the other side of the ramp. Again, entering entering Mankato. This is a concept from our previous study, and some of the ramp congestion that we see today, where people are heading south on 169, and they go east on Riverfront Drive to either West High School or Cub Foods. What we're seeing here, we're coming down the ramp, and we want to go left, and there's a variety of different destinations. Folks are coming from North Mankato or coming down this ramp. They're going to either the Y or West High School during peak times, as well as Cub Foods in the Poplar Street area. So we're having issues with folks stacking up because they want to take this left turn and get on they want to take this right turn to Stoltzman. So they'll stack up here. And what we're proposing, we're seeing traffic starts to back up here. So what we're proposing is adding an additional right turn lane to help separate that stacking, as well as adding a lane here, which would allow more sorting of the traffic. There are some concerns that it requires a little bit more education. You're going to have to kind of know where you're headed. If you're coming off the ramp, you're going to have to make that decision about what lane you want to get in from this area here. There's also potential right-of-way encroachment here. This is a little bit tight with an existing property here, particularly if you want to put in a sidewalk or have pedestrian facilities. So that would require some further design work as this project is carried forward. So again, this, I guess I refer to this as the triple left option. Okay, so next slide, please. So we're in the same area here, and one option, this is a bigger fix with a higher price tag, but the idea here is to replace the traditional exit ramp that we have now. At our previous slide, there's that traditional exit ramp with a full-on above or over, I guess, over the ramp, and I'll show you what I mean here. If we can just go back for 1 second to the previous slide. So the problem is these left turns, and in traffic planning, left turns are much more dangerous than right turns. So instead of having these left turns, if we go to the next slide, please. What if we eliminate the left turns and turn them into right turns? So the ramp it goes over now, and folks that they are taking this left, what if they took right turns instead? And we eliminate the left turns, eliminate that potential conflict. So that's this scenario. Again, a higher price tag. And there are some grading concerns, but this is a planning level document. They're asking that this scenario be taken forward for consideration as folks get a little bit closer to actually implementing construction. And again, the high level feedback, so we took these concepts out to the public. The public did express concern with the Belgrade Avenue. There was some expressed concern with the Belgrade Avenue Vets Memorial Bridge roundabout concept. I think there's some folks that love them and some folks that aren't so in love with them. We did hear some support for the Riverfront Drive signalized corridor and the right turn lane concepts as well. And then there's some merging. We heard that there was concerns with merging at Lookout and Sherman Street before getting on to southbound Highway 169. That's a challenge as well. And again, a full accounting of the public engagement is available for review in the full study. For the purposes of this presentation here, I'm just pulling out the high level results. Next slide, please. So carrying us into the final of the three segments, the southern sub-area. Next slide, please. So again, this is from where the Blue Earth River crossing is to where 169 and 60 go their separate ways. And what we're noticing first within this concept is there's a lot of access. There are a lot of issues with county roads and state highways and local roads and private driveways. And all that access on 169 creates opportunities for conflict and confusion and backup. And what we're seeing today and increasing over the next 20 years is just poor operations and safety, particularly for those left turning movements. So we just wanted to acknowledge that this is a tough area. When you look at it from an improvement perspective, there are things like rivers and railroads and the topography. It's not very easy to just add new road connections. So working within the confines of what's there, we're really trying to see what we can do with access and improve safety just from an access standpoint to make traffic operate more efficiently and more safely. And then we did, just to make things more complicated, we did segment this third southern sub-area into three sections. So we're in the third sub-area, and this third sub-area was divided into three sections. So we'll run through those sections quickly, keeping an eye on the clock here. I want to make sure I'm respectful of everybody's time, so we'll just briefly run through the three sections of the southern sub-area. Next slide, please. So getting into section 1, this is primarily defined by the Blue Earth River crossing and Holly Street, Casal 33, and Amos Owen Lane. And that provides access to this neighborhood. And also, Land of Memories Park is an important destination in this area as well. So first, I should mention that with all the improvements in this particular section, assume a pedestrian grade-separated crossing, so a pedestrian bridge of some kind in the vicinity of Holly Street. Because the options we're looking at and the confines, existing conditions just do not provide satisfactory pedestrian crossing conditions. This study is really recommending a green T intersection at Casal 33. So that's on our far left over here. And what a green T intersection is well, there's a picture of it here in the inset image. And this is an example of what it looks like. This specific example is near Mystic Lake, if folks might be familiar. And what a green T does, it allows traffic in one direction to be free flow and controls the other direction with signals. So in this case, the westbound traffic would be free flow. So folks heading out this way, that would be free flow. And the eastbound traffic would be signalized and controlled. So CASA 33 would actually become the main access point for this area. So instead of having, I guess, three primary access points, we're consolidating and we're emphasizing the safety of one versus having three separate, I guess, potentially lower safety intersection and access points. For Amos Owen Lane, the study is recommending a study improvement for the neighborhood of where folks heading eastbound would actually take a right, and that's that R-cut that we had talked about. So we do have a recommendation for an R-cut here. So folks coming out of Amos Owen Lane, if they wanted to head east, they actually would hook and take a right, which is a safer movement, and go around the R-cut here and travel east this way. The westbound folks would just take a right and just travel west. Eastbound folks, west for a short distance and then take the R-cut this way. We're also recommending adding a acceleration lane here. We heard that from our public engagement and from our freight stakeholder particularly, that an extra lane here would be helpful from a safety perspective. They don't have to, when truckers and freight comes out, exit Holly onto 169 and travel east, they find they have to really accelerate quickly to join the flow and speed of traffic. So this turning lane movement would allow extra room and improve the safety conditions. Next slide, please. This is just a conceptual image of an added acceleration lane at Holly, the right in, right out at Holly, and then that concept pedestrian bridge to meet the demand we're seeing for the multimodal facilities here. And we do have a short animation as well. I think it's on the next slide. If you could click to the next slide, please. So we have Holly on the right, and folks are heading east. So this truck here is heading east, and this truck has a new acceleration lane. It allows that person to, the driver, to reach and meet the speed of traffic. Okay, next slide, please. Then that next section of segment 2 is of the next section of the third southern sub-area. That is defined from CASA 33 through the intersection with State Highway 68 and County Highway 69, and over to where County Highway 90 comes in. In this area, we're seeing particularly poor operations for left turns with Highway 68 and Highway 69, as well as some crash issues at 68 and 69. So again, we're looking at how can we improve safety conditions within the existing confines of what's there now. Next slide, please. So we find a major factor in section 2 here is the Highway 68 intersection. That's at the top of the screen. And if you have your handout, you can take a look. But that's the major factor in this particular section. We got feedback for safety concerns for the intersection of Highway 68, that near misses are often witnessed, in addition to the reported crashes as well. So what the recommendation here is a bigger improvement, and it's consideration of what's called a high T intersection. Now that intersection is actually on the inset image in the upper right corner of the screen. And what the high T allows, this high T example is actually taken from the city of Savage, and that's on Highway 13 and 101. And what it allows is free flow movement for both directions, and then there's an at-grade intersection that allows for turns on and off the highway, and it's sort of underneath, so traffic that's not traveling, that's not pulling off the highway or pulling onto the highway is allowed to go right over the access point. And then traffic that wants to enter or exit the highway is able to take place underneath that overarching high T piece. A bigger safety improvement, and this is the high T is a more expensive, I guess, a bigger safety improvement, but allows free flow traffic and provides for a safer entry and exit point for 169. So that's a recommendation for this section. We did have a couple options with County Road 129 on the left. We did hear some concerns from freight businesses like Benco, for example, about acceleration lanes and looking for ways to improve safety. So we're recommending addition of several acceleration lanes getting on the highway in both directions near County Road 120 And that's on the left, those yellow lines. You can't really see them from this screen, but hopefully you have the slide in front of you in your packet. But I'll show you here. These are the acceleration lanes here. So now these folks have an acceleration lane, and then on T493, another acceleration lane to allow for safer and more gradual acceleration for those freight movements. Next slide, please. And finally, we're moving to the third section of the southern sub-area. This is defined from where County Road 90 to the end of the study area, where 169 and 60 split off and go their separate ways. Primary issues in this area are the northbound left from 169 to 60 west. That movement is starting to fail and projected to continue to see issues in the future. There's also a number of close access points that are all going on to 169, and each point creates potential for conflict and safety issues. So that's a concern. If we go to the next slide, we'll show you what our recommendations are for this final segment. What we're recommending here is a combination of access consolidation and local road improvements, and then a sort of spread out R-cut, or a spread out reduced conflict intersection. And the intention is to address both safety concerns and delay concerns with some of the access points trying to enter and exit off the highway. So I'll jump up quick. I'll show you the R-cut. This is actually the R-cut from here over to here. So folks, if I'm on 169, now this is 169 to get onto the Highway 169. If I want to travel westbound, I'll actually take a right, travel eastbound, and I'll use this movement here to turn and go westbound. This is Lauren Drive. This is an access point here. We're recommending relocating that, so closing off this access from the highway and creating this access road here and creating this full intersection here. So these folks now, instead of having their own access to 169, they would be filtered over to this intersection. This would be our new primary turning movement here. And similar with Lauren Drive over here. So this access point would be closed, new road, and those folks would be filtered and consolidated to this primary access point here. As far as Gadwell, folks travel out and they want to enter 169. If folks wanted to travel eastbound on Gadwell, they would take a right turn and turn here. At this point, this is where a U-turn would be. So this is kind of a spread out R-cut. Mm. And then for 208, that also would be a right in, right out as well. So we're eliminating those problematic left turns onto 169. So we've already covered some of this, but some of the southern area feedback, there was support for Holly Street, Pedestrian Ridge. There was a preference for the location of the green T at CASA 33. There was a couple options of where that green T might be located. It seemed like the community indicated that CASA 33 is the logical choice for kind of being the primary access point for that segment, and support for the added acceleration lanes as well. Next slide, please. We wanted to include some content on the implementation plan because the implementation plan is kind of the bridge and the piece to how this planning, how these aspirations get implemented and actually change and actually get implemented on the ground, and we see changes on the road. We had a lot of discussion, the PMT, about agency priorities, about funding, and the potential for future revenues and the time frame, and are there potential cost efficiencies? If we do this project now, would it make more sense to wait a little bit and couple it with this project here and save money that way? So this is the result of that process. And we did break those improvements down into basically into short, mid, and long-term time periods. And those time periods do coincide with the Maple Long Range Transportation Plan, which is a larger planning document that creates a blueprint for improvements for the whole area. So those two documents are in sync with each other. So I'll touch briefly on the northern sub-area. Basically, we have planning level cost estimates, and then when we're recommending these take place, these improvements actually get implemented. In the short term, this includes that traditional signal at the approach to the Highway 14 interchange, the far left of your screen. So that would be a short term by 2030 that would be recommended. MnDOT's going to continue to evaluate from a safety and capacity standpoint the viability of that diverging diamond. It's the midterm, that's when we're recommending including the Lynn Street relocation access from Lynn Street to North River Lane as the full access intersection. And again, the relocation of Lynn Street should not occur prior to the improvement of North River Lane as a full access intersection. Those improvements should concur concurrently. The roundabouts, North River Lane and Webster Avenue, they're the recommended priority, but again, signalized would also be acceptable. And we're showing the pedestrian bridge around the 2030 time period, around the end of that near-term, short-term time period. Next slide, please. We'll jump right from the north to the southern sub-area because, as I mentioned, the middle sub-area is going to be subject to some additional good study from MnDOT. So we'll jump right to the southern sub-area. The locally recommended corridor vision is recommended to be the grade-separated pedestrian bridge across 169 at Holly. There's the R-cut at Amos Owen Lane that we talked about. The green T at CASA 33 and the add acceleration lane are all recommended for the short to midterm improvements. And the green T at Highway 33 and the reduced conflict intersection at Amos Owen Lane, we're recommending those for the short term to take place within a relatively that short time period. And we're recommending the pedestrian bridge also be a short term improvement. It seems like the demand has reached a point where that would it's needed. The pedestrian facility in that area is an important item. The acceleration lane is a little bit more complicated because that involves bridge work, and so we're placing that in what's called the opportunity-driven time period or time bucket. So that will be evaluated with future bridge work that MnDOT initiates. Next slide, please. Thank you. So now we're looking at, very briefly, in the interest of time, our southern sub-area sections 2 and 3 have been consolidated. We're looking at, in the short term, we're showing that the locally preferred option is adding acceleration lanes. So the green star in the center of the screen, that's our short-term acceleration lanes that we are recommending. We're recommending closing the County Road 169 full access with the median to allow for the right-in, right-out movements for both directions. That's a midterm, and in the midterm, we're showing that the high T at Highway 168, the kind of more significant investment of a high T treatment that would actually raise the westbound Highway 169 lanes on the structure over existing highway. We're recommending that be a midterm improvement. So that's a quick run through of the implementation plan element. Touching briefly on our next steps, so there's not a whole lot left for this study. We're reporting out, answering questions, and requesting some consideration for resolutions of support from you folks. That concludes the report, but I think we're happy to answer questions.
Is the presentation you just provided available online?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. We had 3 open houses, public open houses, and we recorded them. This presentation is largely reflective of the presentation delivered at the open house, the third and final open house that took place in October. So it's on Highway 169, corridorstudy.com.
Can you say it one more time?
Yep, it's so it's Highway 169 corridorstudy.com, and that's actually HWY 169 corridorstudy.com.
Great, thank you. Commissioners?
Yes, Mr.
Commissioner
Chair.
Lipke.
One comment, your Highway 68 is going to be a lot busier the next 2 years, of course, when 14 is under construction. And the question, the intersection of Belgrade, that's like the Memorial Bridge, it's a right spot. Is that a problem area? Are there accidents there? There are? Okay.
Yeah, we have seen some crash history there that was concerning enough for us to at least take a look at the potential for roundabouts. We are actually, 2025, we will be doing rehab work on Vets Bridge.
Okay.
And in preparation for that, we have been looking at the potential for roundabouts at that Belgrade intersection specifically. We're still wrapping that up. I would say it's looking as though it's going to lean toward continuing to do signalized there versus roundabout, but still to be determined.
It seems like a safe intersection, I thought, but Jack, you know more?
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Chair, if I could just mention that the efforts that MAPO and the engineers and the highway folks like Seth have put into this, we've been walking with this now for a couple of years. And MnDOT, is taking the recommendations and will make their decisions. But there are so many important corridors in our county. Highway 14 is being built thanks to the folks at MnDOT and here at Nicollet County. This may be one of the most interesting corridors from Happy Chef to the intersection of 169 and 60, as you saw Charles's presentation. Many challenges, different kinds of challenges for this whole corridor. But it's so important, I think, and it has been for our MAPO board, for the folks at MnDOT, for anyone involved in transportation, to find answers that will pave the way for those who follow us, to make future motorists, pedestrians, any kind of transportation that is enclosed within this area safer for the residents who are coming into the metropolis of Mankato, North Mankato. And so I just want to thank these folks for their presentation today. I see, Mr. Chair, that there is a resolution that they're asking us to support. And from what I can give you as a member of this board and a member of those boards, I think it's time, with everyone's contributions from the cities of North Mankato, Mankato, counties of Blue Earth and Nicollet, to come together and say, we appreciate this and we support this corridor study as it stands now, knowing that MnDOT will be looking at what their funding capabilities are to make it happen. So if you would allow me to the opportunity, I'd move the resolution.
Commissioner Kollars, would you like to read the resolution?
I'd be happy to, if that's what you're asking me.
Yes.
Resolution of the Nicollet County Board of Commissioners in support of Mankato, North Mankato Area Planning Organization, MAPO Highway 169 Corridor Study. Whereas the Mankato, North Mankato Area Planning Organization, MAPO, is the federally recognized Metropolitan Planning Organization, MPO, servicing the Mankato, North Mankato area, and whereas MAPO is responsible for development of a range of transportation studies, plans, and policy decisions, and for directing transportation planning and funding programming within the Mankato, North Mankato area, and whereas over 2020 through 2021, in its capacity as an MPO, MAPO established a comprehensive, cooperative, and continuing 3C transportation planning process to facilitate development of a Highway 169 corridor study. And whereas development of the study included participation, contribution, and direction from staff of the counties of Blue Earth and Nicollet, the cities of Mankato and North Mankato, as well as other adjacent MAPO partner agencies. And whereas the recommendations and outcomes of the study are in congruence and agreement with Nicollet County's priorities, and now therefore be it resolved that the Nicollet County Board of Commissioners supports the outcomes and recommendations of the North Mankato Area Planning Organization's Highway 169 Corridor Study and endorses implementation of study recommendations.
And Commissioner Kollars, you've moved this resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Kollars moves, Commissioner Drano seconds adoption of the resolution. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion and it being a resolution, I'll ask that the roll be taken.
Commissioner Kollars,
Yes.
Commissioner Drano,
Yes.
Commissioner Lipke?
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow?
Yes, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Thank you both for being here today. I don't know that we have more for you, but we'll certainly be watching with interest.
Thank you very much for your time today.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
We turn now to Health and Human Services. Ms. Sassenberg with a proclamation.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. This morning I do have before you a proclamation for county, city, tribal, and state health and human services worker day. This was proclaimed statewide on December 8th by Governor Walz, and annually we proclaim the same in Nicollet County. The timing always ends up a little bit after the fact due to the fact that the proclamation originally comes out in early December. Would you like me to read the?
Please.
Okay. Whereas county, city, tribal, and state health and human services workers are dedicated to improving health, protecting the vulnerable, and providing outstanding public services to the people of Minnesota through their prevention efforts, administration of programs, and provision of services. And whereas county, city, tribal, and state health and human services workers are responsible for the prudent expenditure of millions of dollars annually and must meet the highest standards of job performance in program and services delivery. And whereas the duties performed by county, city, tribal, and state health and human services workers require that they demonstrate a variety of skills in order to provide services to clients, communities, and the general public. And whereas the nature of federal and state legislation necessitates that county, city, tribal, and state health and human services workers continually expand their knowledge, skills, and expertise related to their professions and the needs to the communities they serve. And whereas Nicollet County recognizes the valuable public services that county, city, tribal, and state health and human services workers perform each and every day for the health, prevention, and protection of Minnesotans. Therefore, be it resolved that the Nicollet County Board of Commissioners proclaim Wednesday, December 8th, 2021 as County, City, Tribal, and State Health and Human Services Worker Day.
Is there a motion to adopt the proclamation?
I move to adopt the proclamation.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Lipke moves, Commissioner Kolarz seconds the motion to adopt the proclamation. Any discussion? Other than every day should be Health and Human Services Workers' Day in the past 2 years.
Yes, Mr. Chair, is there any problem because this is behind us?
I hope not. I hope that, Ms. Hessenberg, that staff understand that this is when we had the meeting scheduled, but certainly we're honoring each and every employee, both on the 8th today and every other day.
Correct. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, I think we'll take the roll on the proclamation.
Commissioner Lipke?
Yes.
Commissioner Kolarz?
Yes.
Commissioner Drannell?
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow?
Yes, the proclamation is adopted unanimously. I'll first ask you if you have any news to share while you're here, any reports?
I could briefly share that our clinics for vaccine are winding down. We have had adequate participation in them, though they have been lessening, so less demand in the area. We met yesterday to brainstorm what kind of services we would like to continue to offer, and so in 2022, starting the first Thursday in January, we will start holding weekly clinics that will offer all presentations of the vaccine, so Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, and pediatric vaccine every late afternoon on Thursdays so that people can come in. We have heard there is some demand related to the pediatric vaccine with some local pharmacies not able to provide it at this time. Otherwise, our numbers continue to parallel our positive cases last year, unfortunately, in terms of the positive cases as well as hospitalizations.
Any questions for Ms. Hessenberg?
Mr. Chair, did you get snowed out in Lafayette?
So it ended up being rescheduled because of that snow day, but they were able to make contact with every person signed up, and so I believe they're having it today, actually.
Okay, good.
Commissioner
Mr.
Kolarz.
Chair, I think I shared with our administrator and with Cassie some of the news from the Minnesota Valley Action Council through the Head Start program,
Yes.
where mandates for vaccinations will be required moving into January with the dealing with small children in all of the locations throughout the region. So it's just, and we're seeing, I think, that the Supreme Court is now not cutting off the vaccination mandate for certain states. So I think as people come to realize that this isn't over by a long shot, vaccination mandates may be the future in many more circles.
And Commissioner Carlos will certainly note, for example, in Texas, there was a court decision to stay the Head Start vaccination requirement. So this is going to be an ongoing, at least in the near term, a challenge. Members, I'm going to actually ask, I'm going to be making a parliamentary procedure motion here. Ms. Asperger, if you'd wait, because it's kind of in your area, I believe. On the consent agenda, item 6 concerned a service agreement for 2022 with Brown County Extension. I erred. Do I have that right so far?
No.
Evaluation, not extension. Sorry, evaluation center. I should have removed that item from the consent agenda. I will explain why I should have, and then I'm going to make a motion to reconsider. And then you all can think about this. There is language in the non-discrimination paragraph of that agreement that I believe I would like to ask the county attorney to review to ensure that that is as protective as the non-discrimination language should be. So with that said, I move to reconsider adoption of the consent agenda.
Second.
I don't believe this is a discussion item, but if there is discussion, I will allow it on that motion. Seeing no discussion, all in favor of reconsidering the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We're now back to the consent agenda. What I'd like to do, members, is remove item 6 from the consent agenda. We had previously removed item 5.
That's right.
So 5 and 6 would be removed. I will move approval of the consent agenda, again, omitting items 5 and now 6.
I'll second that.
That motion is seconded by Commissioner Lipke. All in favor of the motion to adopt the consent agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. So the consent agenda is now again approved without item 5, which had been removed, and item 6. I'm now going to turn to the county attorney. I had raised questions about this contract in terms of its non-discrimination language. Have you been able to look at the paragraph at all?
I looked at the paragraph briefly, and I think there's some modification that is needed to that paragraph, and I can work with the executive director to request that change.
Members, to be clear, and there are some protected classes I believe were omitted from the non-discrimination paragraph. And that's what we want to confirm, that we've got it legally correct before we execute the agreement. So we're going to hold on that. We're not going to take action on that today unless, Ms. Hessenberg, you tell me, no, I need that done today. Or Ms. Landcamer.
I think if we could revisit at the beginning of January, that would suffice.
If that's the case, let's do that. If it's not, let us know. We can find another way to handle this, but I don't feel comfortable, members, approving it on our end, subject to change language. I'd rather have the document correct when we first vote on it. Ms. Landcamer, did you have a question? You looked like you might.
Just a point of clarification, there was reference to the Brown County. That was item 7 on the consent agenda, just for clarity purposes.
Not according to this.
No, it's item 6 on ours, Ms. Landcamer, if I might.
Okay. And I have an old copy, I'm sorry.
Okay, so we're good on that. Great, thank you, and thank you for your patience with me on that. Ms. Hesberg, thank you so much. Please, again, thank your staff, and the day is proclaimed.
Thank you.
We will turn to the county attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. You have before you today a contract with Diverging Solutions for your consideration. The purpose of this contract is to take advantage of a program that allows drivers who may have a suspended or revoked driving status to obtain a driver's license to allow them to lawfully drive while they work to resolve outstanding fines and fees related to their driver's licenses. What it does is it kind of ends that vicious cycle of individuals who may be driving, getting some feedback here, who may be driving with an unauthorized, or they don't have a driver's license driving to work, for example, and they'll get another ticket, and they're in that never-ending cycle. So Divergent Solutions really offers an opportunity for drivers to get that driver's license. It also gives them the benefit of having someone to help them navigate the world of DBS. And also, many of these individuals have tickets in multiple counties, so it allows them to also coordinate with multiple counties. There is no cost to the county under this program. In entering into this agreement, I indicated to Divergent Solutions, normally there's a $100 fee back to the county for this program, and I indicated that I was not comfortable with that fee, and so that is going back to the driver to apply to their fees. And I also requested that the contract specifically provide that they will provide language services, and that is reflected in this contract as well. So I would ask the board to approve this contract to increase lawful driving on our roads, and it is really another important tool for probation and offenders to get driver's licenses back. Thank you.
I'll ask for a motion to authorize County Attorney Zender Fisher to sign the contract with Divergent Solutions.
I'll move it. I have a question.
Second.
Commissioner Lipke moves, Commissioner Drannell seconds. Commissioner Lipke.
Has this worked out in other locations?
There are many locations in the state. I think, I haven't checked recently. I know the last time I checked, Sibley County was a close county that utilized it, and counties seeing various degrees of success with the program, and so again, it's just another tool for everyone to have available. It is used by a lot of participants in our treatment court to work on getting their driver's license back while they're in treatment court.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing no other discussion, all in favor of authorizing the county attorney to enter the contract, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion is approved.
Thank you.
I think you're coming back later with a report, if that's right with you,
Yes.
on the agenda. So, okay. We'll turn to finance. Ms. McCormick, public hearing on 2022-26 capital improvement plan and resolution. No, we expect you to use the pointer.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
Good morning.
As Mr. Chair stated, the agenda item today is a public hearing for the capital improvement plan for 2022 to 2026. Following a Minnesota statute 373.40, Nikola County will conduct a public hearing for their 5-year capital improvement plan. The purpose of this public hearing is to review, discuss, and approve the 5-year capital improvement plan. The plan will also identify estimated capital expenditures and funding sources for this 5-year period. And this CIP plan will help allow the board, administration, and department heads make better financial decisions on capital improvement projects and needs. Following the public hearing, we'll request approval of the resolution. So I will go through the packet that you have in your agenda, and I'll hit on some high points. And as a board, we've discussed this at workshops throughout the year, so we'll go into that. So the beginning of the packet will provide a copy of our county mission, vision, core values of Nikola County, along with our org chart for reference. And then the table of contents is a good spot to pinpoint if there's any areas that we want to look at. So I'll go through those. So page 1 through 4 of the capital improvement plan will provide general and required information regarding the CIP following that Minnesota statute I noted, 373.40. As part of that statute, a CIP must set forth estimated schedule, timing, and details of the capital improvements, estimated cost of the capital improvements, the need for the improvements, and the sources of revenues to pay for these improvements. In general, I'd like to note that this 5-year plan is a plan. It's not approvals to complete projects or issue debt, it is a plan. During the budget process for 2022, the first year of the CIP plan is discussed in detail as we go through the budget process. The one area that we have ongoing approvals for is the road and bridge projects area. So within that section of pages 1 through 4, one area to note is the current debt. The county has annual debt payments of about $2 million, so $2,116,160.50. If you look at the debt limit in that statute, there's a calculation based on market value. Nikola County limit is about a little over $5.5 million. So we are well under that limit, just to note that. All right, and then we'll go and highlight some of the areas in the appendixes. Appendix A, which is on page 5. This will provide a snapshot of those 5 years, showing the project and the project/purchase type by year, and then also the funding source by year. The total will fluctuate, and there will be large swings, and that's mainly driven by the public works projects and then also building projects. One update on the bottom of the page, the public works facility should be at 17 million. Just that note on the bottom, it is reflected correctly in the schedule. So yeah, and then also to note on decisions on bonding, because the schedule will show bonding plans for payment. The county's goal is to keep the bonding levy flat for the taxpayer year to year so that there are not any large swings. All right, now we'll go to Appendix B. In this section, page 6 gives a summary of those projects. It starts with a 2-page summary showing the 5 years of projects by each department. This will provide information that supports that Appendix A that we just looked at. And as noted, the first year of that CIP we discuss in detail during the budget process. And then, so the first those first two pages give that summary, and then the many pages that follow will be those forms submitted by the county departments to give a little more detail on those projects. Then if we go to Appendix C, that's page 35 through 40. This section is specific to Nikola County Road and Bridge CIP. And this section will provide those construction plans for those 5 years, as well as equipment investments for public works. All right, and then Appendix D, that starts at page 41. This will give the schedule of our bond tax levy. It provides information year by year of the, it will show you the year of the levy and the year of the collection and the payment. Again, the county's goal is to keep a bonding levy relatively flat year to year, so it remains that we avoid those large swings. And the county will use this as a guide when considering timing of needed projects. We're aware, we've talked about this for years, that we will have a drop coming up in around 2026. So, that's when we really try to consider larger projects and when to time those. All right, then Appendix E, we show the unrestricted fund balance summary for the last audit year of 2020. This will just provide some metrics based on our state auditor recommended thresholds, and it will show you where our county is at with that. And on the bottom of this page, we also show our restricted fund balances related to sales and wheelage tax, specifically road projects we have coming up. It's good to note these balances because we'll be planning to use some of those funds for those projects. And then we go into Appendix F, which is page 43. This is a road improvement project list. This list was approved at the time the sales tax was approved by Nikola County. So this appendix will show those planned projects that sales tax can be used on. And that's the summary of the packet that we present. The format is the same as prior year 5-year plans. And that's what I'm ready to conclude my summary. If it's appropriate, I believe we'd open the public hearing at this time.
Yeah. At this point, we will open up the public hearing for anyone who wishes to comment or raise questions about the Capital Improvement Plan 2022 to 2026. Not seeing anyone come forward to speak during the public hearing, and just giving a quick glance at the county attorney, I'm going to close the public hearing, and we'll proceed.
All right.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Kohlers.
Are you going to say some more?
I was just going to ask if you have any questions as well.
Oh, okay. I think the emphasis is that this is a plan on paper, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And plans on paper sometimes come to fruition, but they move from year to year, so it's a target.
Yes. Thank you.
Correct. And I would agree with that, and just, knowing how when the pandemic started, we had to shift plans, like we will shift plans when necessary and needed.
There are no other comments or observations. Again, you've noted it's an ongoing process of discussion, and we certainly thank all department heads and staff for helping create the requests and to keep us within that conservative spending trajectory that you described. Members, we have a resolution in front of us. Ms. McCormick has described the contents of this resolution already, so I would ask if there is a commissioner who would like to move adoption of the resolution.
Marie, do you want to?
Sure, I'll move the resolution as presented.
I'll second.
The resolution has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, because it's a resolution, we'll take the roll.
Commissioner Drano?
Yes.
Commissioner Kohlers?
Yes.
Commissioner Lipke?
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow?
Yes, the resolution is adopted unanimously. I think we're now turning to the reimbursement resolution for CASA 15.
Correct. This timing is of this. We've talked the CIP, but it's kind of coincidence that it's the same day that we're coming with this. So this agenda item is for reimbursement resolution for CASA 15 road construction project. This is a standard practice when we have projects that begin. You'll remember we do this for ditch projects and different road projects, but we work with our bonding council to ensure that we're following recommended reimbursement resolutions. Let me just find my spot here. So this resolution is, again, for that road construction, CASA 15. There's starting to be expenses that we're going to begin paying for right-of-ways, et cetera. So we're going to want to have this adopted for those future plans to bond for this project in 2022. You'll notice in the resolution we have an amount of $10 million. That amount exceeds what we believe we will bond for or need to reimburse ourselves. But working with Baker Tilly, we want to make sure we have that some leeway there. So we have some buffer in that resolution. We will know more in the spring when bids come in and costs regarding that project. So I'm looking for approval of this reimbursement resolution.
Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
I'll second.
Commissioner Drano moves, Commissioner Kolar seconds adoption of the resolution. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, if you would take the roll, please.
Commissioner Drano?
Yes.
Commissioner Kolars?
Yes.
Commissioner Lipke?
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow?
Yes, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Ms. McCormick, anything else to share while you're here?
I don't think so.
Well, thank you
All
so
right.
much. Thank you
Thank
for walking us through those. Appreciate it. Members, if you're okay, we're just going to keep going on the agenda, and we'll turn to Ms. Langhammer, who has a full plate.
Huh.
It's the end of the year, and quite a few things are requested for consideration. The first item I have for you is the fee schedule for the 2022 amendment. Within your packet, you have a copy of it. You will note that we did receive information from 4 departments: Community Corrections or Probation, Health and Human Services, Property and Public Services, specifically the Property Services Division, and the Sheriff's Department. I do want to note within your packet, you'll notice an additional column to the right side. That indicates the change in red with it. If you have any questions specific to those changes, I'm more than willing to answer them, but we do need to open the public hearing to hear public comment for any concerns related to the amendment of the 2021 fee schedule.
So at this time, we will open the public hearing to hear from individuals about the proposed changes to the 2021 Nikola County fee schedule. Anyone who would like to speak to this, please come forward. Seeing no one come forward for the public hearing, I will now close the public hearing for the 2021 the changes to the 2021 fee schedule. Ms. Langhammer.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, they're pretty minimal increases when you start looking at it. It's just more of covering the cost of business at this time with it, and they are not out of the norm when compared to other counties in the area with it. So I do recommend approval of the changes, and within your packet, you do have a resolution for consideration of those changes to the fee schedule.
And this resolution states that we have the authority to charge fees as a county. We've reviewed the fees and the proposed changes more than once, including today. And we're now looking for a resolution to adopt the 2022 Nikola County fee schedule.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll move this, but I think it would be appropriate for those who are viewing it that we put voice to where the changes are being made, please.
Okay.
And if Ms. Landcamer could
Sure.
do that, starting, I think drug testing is the first one.
So,
Yes.
Commissioner Kolarz, could I just ask for the second, and
Yes,
then we'll
sir.
go to
I'm
that?
sorry.
I'll second the motion to adopt the resolution regarding the 2022 fee schedule. So Commissioner Kolarz moves, Commissioner Morrow seconds. Ms. Langhammer.
Correct. In community corrections under drug testing fees, looking at UA of a positive adult, decreasing it to $25. UA fee for a positive for a juvenile, increasing it to $25. UA fee of ETG of increasing it to $25, and a saliva test increasing it to from $15 to $25, and then the addition of the drug testing patch of $150. Under electronic home monitoring, under EHM for an adult, it's existing at 18. They recommend increasing it to $25 a day. Under miscellaneous fees, under the community services buyout of the juvenile, increasing it from $8 an hour to $10 an hour. If we move into health and human services, under the background study, it is currently $50 to outside vendors, recommending decreasing it to $40 paid to vendor for adults, and then also $20 fee per minor in the household, increasing that from $42 to $42 paid to the vendor per minor ages 13 to 17 years. The step-parent background study, looks like there is a change with that. I'm not exactly sure, but it looks like it's $100 per family plus $25 for each out-of-state residency in the last 5 years. Just a change in the category, which is in red, of licensed corporate child and adult foster care fees. recommending including the background studies of $20, fingerprinting of $9.50 paid to the vendor, and then a relicense fee of $500. Under community residential setting fees, a background study of $20 paid to vendor for adult foster care, fingerprinting of $9.50 paid to the outside vendor for initial application fee of $500 and a relicense fee of $500. Foster adult and child care foster care fee, background study of $20 paid to vendor for adult foster care, fingerprinting of $9.50 paid to the outside vendor, and the potential fire marshal fee of $50 paid to vendor if applicable. Another just category change of out-of-home placement fees. As you get down to the bottom of their area, under loan closet supplies, it is wheelchair and adding the knee scooter term, canes and crutches, addition of $5, and all other medical equipment of $10 per item. If we move on to property services, there is an increased fees for conditional use permits, 3-year renewals, variances, rezoning, and appeals from $400 to $450. And then under septic system, a type 1 to 3, an increase from $225 to $250. Under other zoning items, after the fact variance or conditional use permits of $1,000, increasing it to $1,250. And the last area is within the Sheriff's Department. The addition of securing seizure and or safety keeping property of $100 per hour with a 2-hour minimum. Standby on property exchange evictions, $100 an hour with a 2-hour minimum. Advance fees for seizure of property is the discretion of the sheriff depending on property to be seized. And the services not herein enumerated, sheriff entitled to same fees as similar duties. And that is all of the recommended changes within the fee schedule.
Discussion on the fee schedule. Commissioner Kolars.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I think it's important that we heard those and heard the reasons for them as well. Thank you, Ms. Landcamer.
Chair?
Commissioner Lipke.
So, I get complaints about this, as you know, and you get complaints. The after the fact variance, $1,000 going to $1,250. We get enough grumbles about the $1,000. Is there, the justification for 25% increase?
I can speak to that portion of it. $1,000 is what a conditional use permit costs, actually, to process everything with it. Currently, the county subsidizes it at the $400, and so when it comes to the situation of an after the fact, this is more in line of what it's getting closer to cost at. The $1,000 was calculated about 7 years ago, so it does need some updating. Of course, the cost of postage, per diems, and staff time does cost more as the
surrounding
process.
Counties are similar?
They're actually much higher.
Oh, okay.
I think we're catching up there, John.
Well, I probably just went from a no vote to a yes vote. So, thanks for the explanation.
Any other discussion on the motion?
And I don't know, excuse me,
Please.
what we can do to let our citizens know that they should get permits before they start doing something. But I'm sure you've been battling with that your whole career.
It's a difficult battle.
Yes.
If there is no further discussion on the motion, and I believe it was a resolution, am I correct about that? Yes.
Yes.
If we could take the roll on the resolution, please.
Commissioner Kolars?
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow?
Yes.
Commissioner Lipke?
Yes.
Commissioner Drano?
Yes.
The fee schedule for 2022 is adopted unanimously. We're now to the budget resolution.
Mr. Chair, if it's all right with the board, I will actually address items number 2 and 3 at the same time because it is somewhat repetitive, and so we can move forward with it. Just a little background on this. In September of this year, the board set the preliminary levy of 2% at the second September board meeting with it. On December 2nd, the board held the budget and levy meeting to finalize that levy of 2% with it. In attendance, there were a couple of individuals. They did not have any questions, and I did not receive any questions following that meeting with it. So the board did recommend or move forward with today's final adoption of the budget with it. Just a couple of notes of interest with it. Nicollet County is one of the lower, actually the lowest levy within the regional area with it. Some of those factors do consider that, and this is somewhat ironic, is that some of the projects were delayed from last year due to the concerns with pandemic and funding. The county did receive additional funding from the federal government, in addition to some other areas that were reevaluated by the Health and Human Services, where they did some revenue improvements, where there were some significant cost savings, and that is a good thing. Definitely positive for the staff to go ahead and continue that process with it with the finance department, in addition to the health insurance flat rate for the next year, for this year, and then moving forward, that we can plan more appropriately with that. So the combination of those two items, the federal funding, and of course, as we move forward for the 2022 budget, the addition of the American Rescue Plan Act and some of the additional positions that are pending approval, final approval with that. Just to note what that means as far as a 2% levy increase, that's $475,642 with it. So there is a significant increase overall when we start talking dollars, but in the grand scheme of it, it is a pretty small increase, and the board and department was very cognizant of what that means to taxpayers as we move forward with that. And I'll give you some examples with as far as what that means for a taxpayer. But I do want to note, as far as the 10-year levy increase, with the projected 2% increase over 10 years from 2012 to 2022, and there are several pie charts and graphs within the packets that were shared last Thursday, or I'm sorry, the December 2nd Thursday meeting. They all reflect a 10-year comparison of 2012 to 2022. At this rate, with a 2% increase for 2022, Nicollet County averages a 4.34% increase with it. So that's pretty static based on the growth of the county over the last 10 years and the needs of the county as a whole to generate the services that the county is required to offer with that. Do want to note that what that means for a property owner when it comes to their taxes. Just grab the right form here. Oops. For a home that has a value of $200,000, based on all the factors that come into it and the change in agricultural land, that homeowner could anticipate a decrease in a taxes of approximately $57. And that's based on a $200,000 home. And that is a residential home, just to be clear with it. A residential property with a 5% increase, so that would be going from $200,000 to $210. They could anticipate to seeing a decrease of $1 in their tax approximately. For commercial, industrial, and rentals, with an estimate of a 6% increase, and so that would be in 2021 the value of $500,000 to an increase of $530,000. They could anticipate to see about approximately a $62 increase to their taxes. And a house, garage, 1 acre with a 5% increase in 2021, a value of $200,000. And with that 5% increase of $210,000, they could anticipate, and this is including the tillable land too, with it approximately $161. With that, that is something, as we see the swing from residential to ag land values increase, we start to see the increase in taxes also with it. But overall, the board is considering that 2% levy increase as we move forward with it. I do want to note there was a question about who pays the pie chart within it. The numbers are correct within the packet that you did receive. It just the portions were not correctly separated out with it, so the numbers are correct within your packet for it. But One thing to also note with it is, as far as the market value trend, Nicollet County is continuing to see an increase as we move forward with it. That's a combination, again, of the growth in the county overall, to our cities and to our rural areas as we move forward with it. So growth with a combination of the levy increases and property taxes and the services that the county does provide is on line to where we're supposed to be for the proper balance of the overall budget for that. So with today's request, I do have two items before you. One is to accept and consider the levy of a 2% increase within a resolution within your packet. That packet does identify the significant budget items within it as far as the different funds where those dollar amounts come out of. And I want to note that what that means for 2% increase for the levy is $24,257,200, $24,257,237 with it. And so I ask approval of that resolution for the setting of the 2% levy.
Ms. Lancamer, would you read the property tax levy resolution?
Sure.
We don't need to read all the dollar amounts below it.
2022 Nicollet County Property Tax Levy Resolution. Whereas Nicollet County Board of Commissioners annually adopts a budget, and whereas property tax revenues are needed to balance said budget, and whereas the 2022 Nicollet County budget was prepared with input from all departments and Nicollet County board members, and whereas on September 28, 2021, the county board set a 2022 preliminary tax levy of $24,257,237, which is a 2% increase of the 2021 property tax levy. And whereas a budget meeting was held on December 2nd, 2021 to take public comment on the proposed 2022 budget and tax levy. Now therefore be it resolved that on December 14th, 2021, the Nicollet County Board hereby approves the 2022 net property tax levy for Nicollet County as follows with the indicated numbers dated this 14th day of December 2021.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Kohlers.
thanks to the Budget Committee, to our department heads, to our Administrator and Finance Department for bringing this budget to us in a reasonable fashion that will treat our taxpayers, I believe, fairly. I'll move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Kohlers moves and Commissioner Drannell seconds the motion to adopt the property tax levy resolution. Any discussion? I would second Commissioner Kohlers' comments, both on the revenue side and how hard staff worked to identify potential revenues, and also on the expenditure side. Seeing no other discussion, may we take the roll, please, on this resolution?
Commissioner Kohlers?
Yes.
Commissioner Drannell?
Yes.
Commissioner Lipke?
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow?
Yes, the property tax levy resolution is adopted unanimously. Shall we turn to the budget resolution for 2022?
Yes, Mr. Chair. As I noted, this is essentially a repeat of the tax levy comments with it, but if you'd like, I can go ahead and read the resolution.
If you would read the resolutions without the specific dollar amounts.
Yes. 2022 Nicollet County Budget Resolution, whereas the Nicollet County Board annually adopts a budget, and whereas the 2022 Nicollet County budget was prepared with input from all department heads and Nicollet County board members. And whereas a budget meeting was held on December 2nd, 2021 to take public comment on the proposed 2022 budget and tax levy. Now therefore be it resolved that on December 14th, 2021, the Nicollet County Board hereby approves the 2020 budget in the amount of $49,348,079. Within that there are the revenue and expenditures for that budget for 2022, and then it's dated this 14th day of December 2021.
Is there a motion to adopt the budget resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Lipke moves, Commissioner Drannell seconds motion to adopt the 2022 Nicollet County budget resolution. Any discussion?
Is this the tax levy resolution?
No.
Just the budget.
Okay.
This is just the budget.
Okay.
Seeing no discussion on the budget resolution because we discussed everything on the previous resolution, if you would take the roll, please.
Commissioner Lipke?
Yes.
Commissioner Drannell?
Yes.
Commissioner Kohlers?
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow?
Yes, the 2022 budget resolution is adopted unanimously. We'll now turn to the 2022 elected officials compensation and per diem resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Minnesota State statute requires the county board to establish by resolution the salary and per diem rate for elected officials for the coming year, which would be 2022. The proposed resolution includes a 2.5% increase, same as applied to the county staff wage scale for county commissioners, and a 3.5% increase, a 1% increase over the wage scale, and equal to the county department average increase for elected department heads, and a per diem rate of $70 per day, which is consistent with the 2021 and the last couple of years with it. I do want to note within the resolution, it does call out specifically the salary amounts, annual salary amounts with it. And Mr. Chair, if you'd like, I can go ahead and read the resolution for the record.
Please.
2022 Nicollet County elected officials compensation and per diem resolution. Whereas the Nicollet County Board of Commissioners annually establishes compensation and per diems for elected officials. And whereas Minnesota Statute 375.055 states that the county commissioners in all counties except Hennepin and Ramsey shall receive as compensation for services rendered by them for their respective counties. Annual salaries, in addition, may receive per diem payments and reimbursement for necessary expenses in performing the duties of the office as set by resolution of the county board, with the salary and schedules of per diem payments not being effective until January 1 of the next year. And whereas Minnesota Statute 387.20 and 388.18 states that the county board annually shall set by resolution the salary of the county sheriff and county attorney. And whereas the proposed 2022 Nicollet County budget includes a 2.5% general wage increase, general scale increase. Now therefore be it resolved that Nicollet County Board of Commissioners does hereby adopt the following for 2022. Number 1, the Nicollet County Board of Commissioners salary will be $35,659.73 in 2022, with the chairperson of the board receiving an additional $1,500 annually for duties related to that position. Number 2, the Nicollet County Board and laypersons serving on county committees which have been approved by the county board are approved to receive per diems in the amount of $70 per day. Number 3, the salary for the Nicollet County Attorney in 2022 is set as $132,401.75. Number 4, the salary for the Nicollet County Sheriff in 2022 is set at $137,977.35. Dated this 14th day of December 2021.
Ms. Landcamer and members, I'm going to propose that we use a different but acceptable parliamentary procedure. You can tell me if you disagree. I was going to first allow discussion before a motion on the resolution. If you all are comfortable with that, that's how we will proceed.
I am. I have a question.
Okay. Commissioner Lipke.
Now, this $70 per diem applies to all the other boards, like planning and zoning.
Correct.
Just thinking, sometime in the future, we should maybe raise that $5 or $10. That this is fine for now, as far as I'm concerned.
So you're talking about other individuals who are
Yes.
serving on
Yes,
these
yes.
boards? Yes. Okay.
Because they don't get a salary.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Other discussion?
Quiet.
Seeing no other discussion, I'll invite a motion to adopt the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Well, we've got Commissioner Drannell moving, and I believe it was Commissioner Kolars who seconded. Again, I will allow discussion. Seeing no discussion, if you would take the roll on the resolution, please.
Commissioner Drannell.
Yes.
Commissioner Kolars.
Yes.
Commissioner Lipke.
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow.
Yes, the resolution is adopted. We are now to the Joint Powers Agreement, Rural Minnesota Energy Board, excuse me.
Yes, Mr. Chair. This has been an ongoing Joint Powers Agreement discussion for approximately the last 6 months with it. They started this process in midsummer. They do deal with 18 counties, so getting feedback from 18 counties, consistent feedback, is a little difficult. The board did receive, and when I say the board, the Rural Minnesota Energy Board did receive several considerations as far as amendments to the Joint Powers Agreement. Within your packet, you will notice that they are listed within the summary of it. If you have specific questions, I'd be more than willing to answer them. But my understanding and discussions with the executive director is that it was essentially housekeeping items that they needed to update or address overall with some grammatical typo areas within it. With this, all 18 counties are considering this a joint powers agreement, and the Rural Minnesota Energy Board has asked that this be considered prior to the end of January with it. So I'm more than willing to answer any questions that you may have regarding the joint powers agreement. The county attorney has seen this document and has had the opportunity to comment, and those comments have also been incorporated within the most recent version of the joint powers agreement. So today, I do ask approval of the Rural Minnesota Energy Board joint powers agreement.
Mr. Chair, the Rural Minnesota Energy Board understands the questions from Nicollet County, and they really had no problem attempting to answer them.
Okay. And you are serving on that?
Yes, I am.
Yes. Would you like to move the
I would.
adoption of the
I
agreement?
move adoption of the
Okay.
agreement.
I'll second.
And Commissioner Kolar seconds. Any discussion? Clearly, you support the work that's being
Yes,
done.
yes.
Seeing no other discussion, all in favor of entering into the joint powers agreement for the Rural Minnesota Energy Board, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is passed unanimously. Next item.
The next item is regard to the Property Assessed Clean Energy Program, or PACE, which is more commonly known. Did receive an application to consider a resolution for the placement of a special assessment on a property for the loan obtained through the PACE program. The loan amount is $1 million. The interest rate is 6.13% and will be paid back over a period of 19 years beginning on January 1 of 2023. Within your packet, you do have a copy of the parcel number. Just to kind of give you some little background on it, Nicollet County began participating in the PACE program approximately 3 years ago. Since then, there has been one other project with it. They are periodically as the needs come up. That one was previously located within the rural area. This one is going to be located within the city limits with it. So it's a great opportunity to allow business owners, which includes our agricultural activities, to go ahead and update some of their electrical needs to be more efficient, or basically reevaluate their setups to provide opportunities to be more efficient when it comes to energy generation with it. So today, I do ask approval of the resolution assigning the special assessment on the property, or excuse me, parcel number 19.412.4145 in the amount of $1 million.
Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Mr. Chair, could you
Commissioner-
repeat that parcel number again, please?
19.412.4145.
4145?
Yes.
I'm just trying to...
As commissioners are maybe taking a look, I'll just note that Commissioner Drano moves and Commissioner Kolar seconds motion to adopt the resolution. Discussion.
Is there anything negative about this?
No, as far as the county's participation, the county collects the taxes and just sends the payment then up to the St. Paul Port Authority, who handles all the administration, all the paperwork. We're basically act as a pass-through to facilitate it at
The
the
interest
local
rate
level.
just seems a little high, but it's a long period of time, so.
And that's all worked out through the St. Paul Port Authority based on very specific things related to the project.
Other discussion? If we could take the roll call on adoption of the resolution.
Commissioner Drano,
Yes.
Commissioner Kolars,
Yes.
Commissioner Lipke,
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow.
Yes, the resolution is adopted unanimously. We'll now turn to the opioid settlement resolution.
Yeah, this is the last item I have for your consideration. It's a little bit more extensive. As you may recall, a couple of years ago, there was some considerations of some lawsuits, the opportunity for Nicollet County to participate. At that time, a combination of efforts of not knowing the specific numbers and what it meant overall, the county chose not to. There were some counties and cities and other entities that did pursue some lawsuits, and just to give you some background with it, what we have in your packet is a consideration of that resolution concerning the Minnesota opioid settlement. It's been a as rather fast from this summer to within the last couple of weeks, this settlement that has come about with the assistance of the Association of Minnesota Counties, Executive Director Julie Ring, and several other entities, including the Attorney General's office in Minnesota, to come up with this agreement that is before you. Just to note, as a result of over 3,000 lawsuits brought forward by states and jurisdictions against opioid manufacturers and distributors, settlements were reached with the 3 largest pharmaceutical distributors in the summer of 2021. On December 3rd of 2021, Minnesota reached an intrastate agreement that could bring in over $300 million to Minnesota entities over the course of 18 years. For the county to participate in this settlement, the county must adopt the attached resolution that agrees to the following. And I just want to make sure that be very clear that what this means by approving this resolution. You would be, by approving the resolution, you're agreeing to the state subdivision agreement. You're supporting the multi-state settlements with McKesson, Cardinal Health, and AmerisourceBergen, and with Johnson & Johnson. You're authorizing a county representative to opt into the national settlement and execute all necessary documents. And this was a point of conversation at the November workshop. Previously, the county attorney has been acting as the contact and signing the necessary documents to continue our participation at that level. By doing that, it'll be the signing of the Minnesota Opioids State Subdivision Memorandum of Agreement, which I have a copy, and if you're interested, it is an extensive document. The Distribution Subdivision Settlement Participation Form, and the Janssen Subdivision Settlement Participation Form. So it'd be opting and allowing the county attorney, if okay, to sign those 3 documents, and then also supporting the amendment of Minnesota Statute 256.043 Subdivision 3D to remove the provision related to settlement allocation. And by doing this, this would allow the money to be a direct payment to the counties rather than through the state. Currently, it's proposed at a 25-75 split. 75% would be going direct payments to the county. If statute is not amended, it would go then to a 40-60 split, 40% going to the state, 60% going to the counties with it. I am more than willing to answer any questions. For those commissioners that attended the Association of Minnesota Counties Conference last week, Julie Ring, the executive director, did an excellent job of explaining all the work that they've gone through in the last couple of weeks and what this means to counties that are participating. It's basically imperative that the county participate. Unfortunately, it's a very short turnaround. They're requesting all boards to consider this resolution by January 2nd of 2022. So this is why I'm bringing it forward today, and with such short time frame. I'm more than willing to answer any questions. I believe the county attorney may have some additional comments or available to answer questions too, but it is a positive thing to address any concerns with the opioid and the use of it, and with the fallout overall with the unfortunate deaths of some of those individuals involved with the opioids, and what that means to the Health and Human Services Department and our Sheriff's Department, and of course the Attorney's Office with it. So.
And these funds are for opioid abatement and remediation?
Yes, it's a broad category of what those funds can be used for, related to opioid
I'm going to
remediation.
turn to the county attorney first.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would support the board's entering into this agreement. I think what it does is it focuses local government having the ability to use those funds in a way that is most meaningful to their communities rather than doing it at a statewide level. And so that is a positive aspect of this settlement proposal. As Ms. Landkamer indicated, this has been a fast-moving process, negotiated at a state level on behalf of the counties. I would note, and I don't recall if I mentioned it at a board meeting or a workshop meeting, I've participated now in 2 meetings with a substance use advocacy meeting that was initiated by the city of Mankato, who is the only local city that will be receiving funds under this settlement because it's the only one locally large enough to receive those funds. Forgetting his title, but Matt DeRose started that conversation. He's the only law enforcement representative on the statewide committee to look at how this region can utilize these funds, hopefully with some collaboration. So right now that advocacy group is really trying to gather what's the best way to move forward, to bring awareness, and then to use the resources that already exist and to bring them together in a holistic approach to responding to the substance use It continues to grow in our community. We're obviously continuing to see the increase in methamphetamine use in our community, but along with that, we are seeing an increase in heroin and related use and fentanyl. Fentanyl is significantly increasing in our area as well, or we're certainly seeing it far more than we used to. So I would urge the board to approve this agreement, and I'm happy to sign the documents on behalf of Nicollet County.
Thank you. Commissioner Lipke.
Well, I was at Alexandria, had the seminar up there, and I had the one in Bloomington or Minneapolis, wherever we were, and I think it's imperative we pass this promptly.
Great, thank you. Other commissioners? Commissioner Kollars?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wonder, and I'll support it, but if this agreement lets these pharmaceuticals off too easy, for all the damage that has been done to so many, many people, I don't know who wants to put their oar in the water on that one. I guess that's just a lone opinion.
Well, no,
It's not a long opinion.
at some point, no dollar amount would be sufficient for the families and those who have suffered. I am not really in a position to say whether it was a practical option to obtain even more funding, but certainly there is culpability there. Yeah. Seeing no other discussion, let's take the roll on this
Have we
resolution.
moved yet?
It was not moved yet. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was. I apologize. Commissioner Lipke moves.
Second?
Commissioner Drano seconds the resolution. Thank you. Now we'll take the roll. I apologize.
Commissioner Lipke?
Yes.
Commissioner Drano?
Yes.
Commissioner Kollars?
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow?
Yes, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Thank you.
And just one other item, Mr. Chair, I just want to thank you for your leadership and for the Board of Commissioners' leadership this year. It's been a trying year for all of us as we make significant transitions and several transitions at that. And I don't want to speak on behalf of the department heads, but I know myself have appreciated the support and the leadership our county board has provided to us. And I have heard from other counties too that you've done an outstanding job or considering the year that we've gone through with it. And pandemic is still something that is a high priority with it. So thank you, and we appreciate
We can only do as well as every person who works for Nikola County. So thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go to another star, Property and Public Services.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board.
Good morning.
I only have two items today. The first item is the approval of the Ag B&P low interest rate loan program, this for the septic liens. There is a resolution attached in the packet. There are two parcels that have applied for this for the total amount of $31,200. And attached is the resolution that I am seeking approval for to put those on the tax rolls.
Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll move.
Commissioner Lipke moves.
Second?
Commissioner Drano seconds. Discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, once again, let's take the roll.
Commissioner Lipke?
Yes.
Commissioner Drano?
Yes.
Commissioner Kollars?
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow?
Yes, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Now we're going
Thank you.
to voting equipment grant.
Opposite end of the spectrum.
True. All right, attached in your packet is another resolution. The state of Minnesota is offering another Vega number 3. This is the third round of funds coming out. This is, there are leftover funds from 1 and 2 grant, and then more appropriated funds for the Vega 3 grant. The main emphasis on this, the priority, is to either purchase assisted marking devices that are replacing our old AutoMark systems that are very, very old, or electronic rosters. My intent to do with this grant is to purchase assistive voting devices. This is a 50-50 match grant. although I do want to let the commissioners know that there is a HAVA grant coming out right behind this, and that HAVA funds can be used for the other 50%. So it's a real short turnaround time for this entire process, but we're looking to get this application in first, and then we'll be coming back to the board as soon as we get the information from the Secretary of State for the HAVA grant, and that's for the assisted voting devices for the other 50%. So we're hoping that we can get grant funded for the entire purchase of these. The deadline to apply for this grant is Friday, and so part of the application is that we need to provide them with a resolution approving that that you allow us to apply for this grant. So that is closed.
Mr. Chair, having all the confidence in the world in our Nicollet County election system, I would move approval.
I'll second.
Commissioner Kohlers moves, Commissioner Lipke seconds adoption of the resolution approving our application. Any discussion? I think it's just a mark to the wonderful work you all do and the guidance you're offering us here. What is assistive voting?
So the assistive voting devices are not ballot counters. They are to help the population with disabilities, if it's maybe blind or even hearing impaired, so they can mark their devices. There's hearing impaired or it's touchscreen. Our current systems are very old. They're very heavy. They're falling apart. I would have liked to replace these long ago, but the Secretary of State's or the legislation have only approved one option, and that option is out there for us to purchase, and now that we have 100% funding option, we will go ahead with that one option. They are based on like an iPad with a printer, and then there's different devices, and they've been tested by the Disability Association and been approved that way. But they are really for that purpose, so it's not a ballot counter at all. We have to offer these at every precinct.
Wonderful. Thank you for that explanation.
Sure.
Commissioner Lipke.
So how many precincts would that be? Because there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of mail ballots, correct. So right now, I have on the application, the intent would be to purchase 20 of these. We have 28 precincts, but we wouldn't need them for all of our precincts. Plus, we do need extra ones and ones for absentee voting here, so.
Right, thank you.
Let's take the roll on the resolution, please.
Commissioner Kohlers,
Yes.
Commissioner Lipke,
Yes.
Commissioner Drantle,
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow.
Yes, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Before you leave, we have the farm lease renewals. Is anyone handling that today? Or has that just been removed from the consent agenda?
There was 2 items, right?
Well, the other one we handled, but there was the annual leases of county-owned property. Did you want to do that somewhere else today or just remove it from the agenda entirely?
That was my error. I think I was looking at an old copy of the agenda, and so when
Okay.
I referenced number 5, it was on my copy, and that's why I had asked the question with it. So no, farm lease renewals should be maintained on the consent agenda.
Okay, I think we're going to have to,
Check the minutes.
Just do them now.
yeah, I'm just going to do it now.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do it now. So we have, let's see here. Is it a resolution? It's a lease. Okay, so we have a request to renew the annual leases on county-owned property, and there are no changes from last year. The lease for property located in Brighton Township, the Poor Farm, to Melvin Hopp. Upon recommendation, the lease would be for 8.93 acres at $150 per acre for a total of $1,339.50. The second lease is for property located in Cortland Township to Kenneth Drill. Upon recommendation, this lease will be for 37.06 acres at $122 per acre for a total of $4,521.32. So for a total of $5,860.82. Is there a motion to approve renewal of the 2 leases?
I move.
Second.
Commissioner Lipke moves, Commissioner Drannell seconds approval of the 2 leases. Any discussion?
Is this annually? Yes. Okay. And of course, both those operators were happy with these terms. Okay,
As far as
thank
I
you.
know, yes.
Any other discussion? Seeing no other discussion, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is adopted. The 2 leases are renewed. Okay, county attorney update.
Mr. Chair, was there any other additional, or, my mistake, I'm misreading the agenda. I don't think I have any additional updates other than the 2 that I've already spoken on. I had an opportunity to speak prior, so thank you.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Commissioner committee reports. Commissioner Lipke.
Okay. Well, I served at the Community Thanksgiving in New Ulm, went to the Soil and Water meeting, went to the Truth and Taxation meeting that evening with the rest of you, spent all 4 days up at AMC, did a Zoom meeting on South Central, and even though I have fiber optic, it still kicked out the volume every once in a while. And that was for the clean energy based on a community in Germany.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
That is interesting. Commissioner Drano.
Attended a broadband meeting with Chair Morrow and Administrator Landcamer and Nuvera, a liaison committee with the City of St. Peter, One Water, One Plan meeting. I actually zoomed in to save the 55 miles in 20 minutes, and then the Truth and Taxation hearing.
And thank you for mentioning the broadband. Have we heard back from Nuvera?
They did email late yesterday afternoon with the information. I just haven't a chance to look at it.
Okay. We will share with Commissioner Kolarz, Commissioner Lipke, information from Nuvera that was in response to our most recent broadband meeting about what options might be out there. Commissioner Kolarz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just was clicking on the agenda and saw that Lorna Sandvik was supposed to have a report. Is that going to come after we're done with these? If you click on the agenda piece, is she going to be speaking about assessor clerical error corrections and abatements annual thing, Mandy?
Are we looking at 2 different agendas? Because I don't see that.
December 14th you got, Jack?
It's in the packet, but it's not on the agenda.
Oh.
Right.
I believe it's informational.
Yes.
Yeah.
General report that's informational.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's
That
no
matters.
action.
Yes,
needed,
thank
right?
you.
No action is just for your review.
Yes.
It comes every December.
Yep.
Sorry to blur it out.
That's okay. So we have a list of property tax abatements granted for taxes payable in 2021, 2020 for local option disaster abatements. This was attached to our packet for our information. The assessor submits a list of clerical error corrections made to the 2021 assessment for taxes paid in 2022. It looks like it was just one parcel.
So this is just a report, and do we need to take action?
There's no action to be
No,
taken on
It's just
this.
informational
All
for
right.
you.
My apologies.
That's okay.
In terms of meeting report, Mr. Chair, members, attended the county tax meeting on the 2nd, AMC at our transportation meeting. Gordy Wagner was elected the chair to replace Van Sternberg. Roger Imdyke was elected vice chair, beating Nicollet County representative by 4 votes for the vice chair position. So I lost again. Well, for the first time. We had a RETA meeting on December 8th. Maple presentation yesterday on ICE study, which is an intersection control study at Stadium and Stoltzman, which is an interesting intersection below the MSU Hill on Stadium Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a meetings and conferences?
Nothing planned at this time. There are a list of the meetings within your packet, but nothing official at this time.
Perfect, thank you. A motion to approve per diems and expenses.
I'll move.
Second.
Commissioner Lipke moves, Commissioner Kolar seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Commissioner Kolars?
I have a question, Terry and Mr. Chair. What is the name of further changing to, and when will the new Medica cards be coming to Nicollet County employees?
It's my understanding that all the staff have been uploaded into the system, into the UKG system, and that also then corresponds to the health insurance Medica with it, and they should be sending out that information.
They'll mail it out, Mandy?
Yep, they will mail it out directly to all the individuals with it.
And what's the new name of Further?
Further, I don't know exactly, but I'll find out.
I thought I heard that they were changing or...
Be like the fourth time in 10 years.
Yeah, could you update us? with
Yeah,
the-
I will find out what it is. I don't know that it's officially been transitioned to it, but I know they've had some conversations and that it is coming, but what they're operating under right now, I'm not
Thank
exactly
you.
sure.
A motion to adjourn the board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Drown moves, everyone seconds the motion to adjourn the Board of Commissioners meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. The Board of Commissioners meeting is adjourned. I will now call to order the Drainage Authority meeting. We have an agenda that simply has consent agenda items. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move.
Second.
Commissioner Lipke moves, Commissioner Kolar seconds. All in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved unanimously. Now we have the consent agenda that has 2 items on it. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
Commissioner Drennel moves, Commissioner Lipke seconds. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
The consent agenda is approved unanimously. Now a motion to adjourn the Drainage Authority meeting.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Would
sir.
it be in order to have Seth give us an update on 86A and 77? It would not be? Okay.
So I'll return to adjourning the Drainage Authority meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move it.
Second.
Kolars moves, Lipke seconds, adjourning the Drainage Authority meeting. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? The Drainage Authority meeting is adjourned.